What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the PHNX Suns Podcast. I'm Lindsay Smith. That's Saul Bookman. That's Gerald Bourget. And that is Flex from Jersey. Guys, how you doing now that you've had a hopefully good night's sleep after the chaos of yesterday?
I mean, I slept okay. I'm tired from all the writing and the more writing to come, but I'm feeling okay about the trade. I know a lot of people are still upset about it and see it as a severe downgrade. But I think at this point, we're going to start taking a look ahead a little bit in terms of what this trade does for the Suns and how it could change the dynamic for the upcoming season. And some of it is bad and some of it is potentially okay. But I think we're going to get through this.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of sitting home and being able to digest this a little bit yesterday. So a lot of film, a lot of conversations, and I have come to a better conclusion this morning. Yesterday was a little bit of a roller coaster, but with the time to digest it, I'm feeling a lot better about it. I think it's, I don't think it's a great deal. I don't think it's a terrible deal. So I think it's, we can kind of chop it up and look at the future.
I mean, any way you slice it, this is the worst deal in Suns history.
So aggressive.
I just, I just want to give up. It's over.
Stop it.
It's over?
No, he's full of shit.
I'm full of shit, dude. Like, no, I think it's fine. I don't listen. If they really, it's obvious that a change of scenery for both parties was necessary. This is what the Suns thought was the best deal that they could get, so they took it, and it does give them a little bit of flexibility here and there. I'm okay with it. I think the pieces actually, the more I've watched Nassir Little, the more I like him.
Yeah.
The more I feel like, maybe we had this wrong a little bit. I think actually he becomes the major piece in this trade instead of
Jusuf
Nurkic. I forgot his name already.
Well, to be fair, we've learned a lot of new names this offseason. Yes. A lot of them.
So that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with it. I'm ready to move on. And more importantly, for DA, I just really, really hope he gets what he was looking for. He deserved a fresh start. I love the guy. I always will. Bear down all the time. But he needed this. He needed this not only for his game and his future, but he needed this for his psyche. More importantly, in my opinion, because obviously he felt some type of way, and some of the comments out in the Bahamas during the World Cup would lead you to believe that as well. And so I'm happy for him.
Flex, yesterday, what were you kind of hearing as far as when you were talking to people, both pre-trade news and post-trade news?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was difficult because there was an initial wave when it happened, and I think it happened so fast, and Milwaukee wasn't talked about much. So when it kind of came to fruition, I think everybody was kind of hesitant to really dig deep and have conversations about it. They were trying to get their wits together. You know what I mean? And I think later on in the day, having conversations and letting things settle down, you start to see what Saul was talking about a little bit. The Suns, I was told the Suns do feel like Nassir Little is a sleeper in this deal. And then being able to talk to some Portland people, we'll talk about that later. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to frame it like I framed it yesterday on Twitter. It's simple. DA needed a change. DA needed a change. The Phoenix Suns needed a change. Both parties mutually needed some change. And I think this is one of those rare ones where on the surface right now, you probably can't see it. But I think fast forward about half the season, you may look back and say, this is one of those rare moves where both teams won. DA got to a good place, and he's thriving and is able to play the way he wants to play, or has he feels like he hasn't been permitted to play here. And I think that the pieces that we got are going to show and pay dividends as we progress.
Real quick, Charles in the chat had said, what happened to the Saul? What happened to the Saul that said he's not on my team? Good luck, but bye-bye energy. It's still there. Like, I don't give a shit if Portland wins 0 games, 82. I don't give a shit if he has 50 points a game or averages 5. Like, he's not on my team. Like, so I don't care. Like, hey, listen, Mikhail, Cam, DA, all in the same boat. I hope they all thrive. I hope they all play well. I hope they have successful careers because they're very good individuals and very, and from a personal standpoint, they're really good people.
Yeah.
But, my team is the motherfucking Phoenix Suns. I don't care about any other team in the league. I have a side piece though, so I'll get to that later.
Who?
OKC's my side piece.
Oh,
Oh yeah, he's been high on the Thunder.
Thunder up.
That's been an obvious one. Okay, real quick, I do want to. I'm going to kind of throw a curveball at you guys for this one, but I'm seeing it in the chat, and I've seen this all over social media since this news broke. Why would the Suns help the Bucks get better? And I understand the idea behind that, but it would have appeared for me, based on all of the information prior to this trade actually happening, the Suns were always on board with DA and Nurk. That was always a piece of the puzzle, regardless of what other third team was involved. So they clearly liked Nurk enough and believed that he would be a good replacement for DA within this trade, because every single team that we heard might be in the mix, it was all the consistent was DA and Nurk.
Yeah.
Right. We had been hearing about the Blazers' interest in DA. We had been hearing that even if the Dame trade didn't happen, like they were still going to try and push a framework for DA and Nurk somehow with maybe bring in another third team.
Right.
So how I'm feeling about it is if the Suns were clearly that bought in on Nurk, they felt like they got better. Or they felt like this was a good move for them regardless of who that third team was.
I think it's more so like we've been saying. I think everyone involved needed a fresh start. I think and we'll talk about some of the reasons why they might have wanted to move on from DA, but I think they wanted to move on from DA. And I think Nurkic was one of the available centers that they knew that they could get, a starting caliber big who was playing for a team that had interest in DA, because like we've been saying for most of the summer, the offers for DA were not necessarily as high as we had hoped. And I think, again, we found out what DA's trade value is with this trade. It's not an overwhelming blue chip piece that's coming in return for a former number one pick. It's bits of spare pieces and parts that hopefully you can put together in a playoff rotation, one or two of those guys.
I don't think you go into a trade worrying about the other team.
No.
Right.
You worry about your team. The Suns feel like they got a package that works for them, and you let whatever happens with the other teams happen. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm keeping it 100 here. I don't know how much Milwaukee is better. Like, Dame can score.
Tell him, Flex.
Dame can score, but damn, man, what Drew Holiday does on both ends, that's going to be missed. And so I had a conversation last night with somebody about this, and my answer was I thought it was slightly more than a lateral move. That's my opinion. Slightly more than a lateral move. They're a little bit better offensively, but they've taken a step back defensively.
I would disagree with a little bit better offensively. I think they did get significantly better on offense because I think Dame opens up the floor more for other guys because of his range.
Okay.
Drew Holiday does not have Damian Lillard range. Like, that's significant.
Yeah, that's fact.
And the pick and roll, I think, will be a little smoother with Giannis. You're not having to give Giannis, the ball and just say, hey, put your head down and just run over everybody to the rim now. So Giannis needed some help on that end for sure. But defensively, is to your point, and Eddie Johnson and I kind of went back and forth on this today because he felt like Drew kind of took a step back defensively last year. But I challenge anybody to sit there and say, well, fuck, if Giannis misses several games in the playoffs, which he did, he missed one or two games. The load's going to be more focused on you, and you're going to have to carry a lot more of the weight, and he just couldn't do that. So I don't necessarily think what I think is going to be funny. And everybody's looking at Milwaukee. Everybody, they got better. How would you help them? First of all, they got to get to the finals first, okay? They got to get through Boston. And the rumor is right now that Boston might fuck around and land Drew Holiday. And wouldn't that shit be funny?
That would be
great. He gets to fucking Boston. And those two got to go at it to try and get to the finals sign me up for that all day.
I would be praying for it if not for the fact that if the Suns reach the finals, they'd have to play one of those two teams. But
they'd be worn
it'd
out.
be so much fun to watch that series.
Because we're sweeping the fucking Nuggets.
Oh boy!
Come
Oh,
on,
man.
Saul.
We're just throwing.
Come on,
man.
It's too early
Is
for
it
this
a
shit.
shady
I'm fucking
raid?
around.
He
Some
came in
shady
here
raid.
with the vest on today. He got the
Don't
bulletproof
clip
vest
that.
on today.
Dude, listen, I
Don't
took
clip
bullets
that.
all the last 6 months, man. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about them.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of address that because I know that's been a question that a lot of people have been
Yeah.
asking. But I think at the end of the day, you got to worry more about what your team is doing and less about what the other teams are doing. And if you feel like it's a good move for you, they should make the move one way or the other, regardless of how we feel, because we don't actually get a say in any of it.
Mhm.
That's the unfortunate part. So one of the things that we did talk about yesterday is the fact that the Suns did have 4 players come in within this trade, which means that at some point in time before the season starts, they are going to have to let 2 players go to reach the number that they're allowed to have. And we did get a report from Jake Fisher today that the Suns are expected to waive Keon Johnson and Ish Wainright. I don't think this is surprising, but it's still a bummer nonetheless. We don't know Keon Johnson personally, but we do Ish Wainright, and he has been a fan favorite and a stand-up guy, and it's going to be sad.
Yeah.
It is. He's been a really fun underdog story to cover. One of the nicest guys in the locker room and someone who has really worked hard on his craft to get to where he is at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if this winds up being what happens just because Keon's the new guy. He's 21, barely played on a pretty bad Blazers team. And Ish, his contract is non-guaranteed for the upcoming season, so it would make most sense to part ways with him. We'll see, but it would be unfortunate to say goodbye to Ish, but unfortunately this is a business and that's what happens with some of these
Are we
trades.
sure we gotta get rid of Ish?
Can he come back on a
We don't-
two-way again? Because we have one more open, right?
You do have a two-way slot.
So I thought, yeah, go ahead, Gerald.
You do have a two-way slot. It'd be interesting to see if they tried. I feel like Ish, you've done the two-way thing with him for 2 years. Maybe you could convince him to come back on a two-way, but maybe you want to do right by him and let him see if he can be on an NBA squad. It's tough though because it's so close to the start of training camp.
I had that conversation with someone late last night and was told that is being thought of.
Okay.
Okay. Now, whether Ish would do it is a whole different thing, but
Right.
they love Ish.
Mhm.
Now, I will say this. Matt Ishbia, we can curse on this, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
I don't know
Matt
if you-
Ishbia's got fuck you money.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
he does.
So if this was Robert Sarver, it'd be a foregone conclusion. The non-guaranteed dude is getting
Right.
cut.
Mm.
Matt Ishbia is a different cat, man. So, if he feels like the right thing to do is to keep Ish around, maybe he takes a bite,
Say it.
bites the bullet.
Say it. Who would they cut? Tell me.
Do you want?
Give it to me.
Let's just.
You know what I wanna hear.
Let's just say it's a guy that you want to hear.
You know-
But I don't
Okay,
want to say
But
that.
is there concern there?
Huh?
Because am I thinking about the same guy? The one that you reacted to negatively when we found out about it in the first place?
He's been calling
Oh,
him
you were like,
his
me
new
too?
Landry
Yeah.
Shamet.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But do we need more
No, he's
bigger
not.
bodies?
No.
Time out. He's not gonna be my Landry Shamet. I just was never on board with his game in the first place. That's okay. He can prove me wrong, but I like Ish. I think Ish provides more flexibility. But he's a backup big. He can play small ball 5. So maybe that's the aspect that they're thinking of, especially if
Right.
Nurkic does fall apart and gets injured again, and he can't play as many games, and Bol isn't anywhere near where you need him to be, and all you're basically relying on is Drew Eubanks. Then yeah, you kind of got to keep Metu,
Right.
and Ish is the odd man out. So from that perspective, I can understand why they would cut Ish, but low key on my end, I'm not a fan of any Trojan.
I think Ish has done a
That's why I
very.
have 4 kids.
I think.
Dear God.
Sorry.
Yo,
I'm so sorry.
Why?
I'm
He
so
came in
sorry.
here. He
That was
came
so
in
bad.
here
That
on
was so
fire.
terrible.
You
today.
I'm so sorry.
individually owe each and every one of us an apology, including your 4 kids.
I'm so sorry.
So out of pocket.
I know.
Wow.
That was a stray that nobody deserved. I'm sorry.
I think Ish has done a really good job of putting himself in a good position based on the character person he is,
Mhm.
the ball player he is, and how many people love that guy. So I'm rooting for Ish, man.
Mhm.
Let's see how it shakes out. I'm not gonna just sit here and say Ish is getting cut. I haven't quite heard that, but he is one of the names that's being talked about. So,
well, I do hope that if Ish doesn't find another team between now and the start of the season, if he does end up being the one who gets cut, that the offer is available for him to come back on a two-way. Because I know he loves this place. He loves this organization, the fan base, the Valley, everything. But we'll keep an eye on that. But that is what we've heard so far from Jake Fisher, is that it's Keon Johnson and Ish Wainright who are likely going to be waived by the Suns. But again, they can carry them through training camp and whatnot. So it doesn't have to happen anytime in the near future unless they know that these players have somebody else who is interested in signing them, which then it's kind of like you do right by each other.
correct.
Listen, if Saul just sent you down a spiral with all of his shenanigans, I highly recommend Wink. Wink is a seltzer with just a wink of THC. It's something that'll just kind of help balance things out a little bit. Never a bad thing to be a little more balanced, right? Wink is light and social. It's bubbly enough to help you work the room, and but you also keep your wits about you.
Much like myself.
Working the room, but keep your wits
Light and bubbly.
about you with Wink. There is no third-party producers. Wink is made in-house with 0 calories, sugar, or alcohol, and it tastes like your favorite refreshing flavored seltzer. They are available in either 2.5 milligram or 5 milligram cans, and you can find Wink right here in Arizona. Just look for Wink at all Sunday Goods dispensaries in the Valley and Botanica dispensary in Tucson. They're now also in 12 states nationwide and even recently launched online ordering and home delivery to about a dozen others. So to find the fastest way to get your hands on one, just go to drinkwink.com.
Real quick, Jake it or leave it. I don't know what you're talking about.
He was under the impression you were talking about Grayson Allen, but you were talking about...
I was talking about Shemezi Metu.
Yeah.
Not Grayson Allen.
Just to clear that up.
Now love Grayson Allen. He is my favorite player on this team.
Oh, no.
Lord.
Oh, yes. We are going to talk about that in a second.
Oh, no. Well, listen, if that just brought you down, BetMGM's got you covered because they just want to give you some free money, you guys. And if that's not a bright spot in your day, I don't know what is. All you have to do is sign up for BetMGM using the bonus code PHNX. Then you place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. So it's literally just $200 there for the taking. So don't miss out on this. Again, that bonus code is PHNX. You can check out the show notes for full details. And now you can listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
That was the biggest compliment I've ever gotten.
Is it?
Somebody said Saul is the Grayson Allen of this podcast, and I'm fucking here for it.
You need better people around you. That's the best
I
compliment
know,
you've
I
got.
do, Gerald.
All right.
Damn.
I mean, you set yourself up for that one.
Saul, you are the Chris Paul of this podcast. How about that?
So I won't be here during the playoffs?
Damn.
Oh, shit.
No,
you are
because
on
you fucked
fire,
up
bro.
your knee the other
I did fuck up my knee. I did.
Oh, no. Okay, guys. So I think there is a lot of understanding around the why this move was made, but I think we should dive a little bit more into it. We did talk yesterday. Kevin O'Connor did send out a tweet that mentioned that, there might have been a little bit of frustration behind the scenes with DA still, regardless of Monty leaving. We've heard this multiple places now, and we heard it on Brian Windhorse's podcast yesterday, their emergency podcast about this trade. Tim McMahon shared some insights around that as well.
Monty Williams, obviously, and DeAndre Ayton butted heads a lot. But Monty's departure did not solve or did not diminish kind of the angst about DeAndre Ayton within that organization. And Wendy's giggling because he knows that I'm right. I just think in the locker room, throughout the organization, and I'm not on some of these things, I think DeAndre Ayton got a raw deal. Him not playing game 6 surprised a lot of people in our organization and didn't necessarily go over well. I'm not a doctor. I didn't examine his ribs. I don't know how severely he was hurt. I'm just telling you. His desire to have more touches was absolutely not going to work in Phoenix. And, they were like, dude, they were willing to deal him for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Rashawn Holmes on draft night. So for them to actually be able to get a few guys who might actually be decent rotation players, a fill-in starter at center and some rotation players, given the fact that they were trying to dump him, they're trying to get rid of him. That's just
Okay, first, I do want to address the Tim Hardaway Jr., Rashawn Holmes thing. We all know that phone calls were made around draft night. I think if the Suns were willing to accept that offer would have been accepted then.
There's no, if that was the offer that the Suns were okay with accepting, DA would be a Dallas Maverick. They wanted him. There's no way that they would have. Yeah. I think the Mavericks offer came in low for the Suns, and that's why that deal didn't happen.
There was 4 teams that I had spoke with the week of the draft that were all interested in DA. Trash offers.
Right.
And so the Suns listened to them, but nothing got over the line. It was like, no, we're not just going to give DA away. So, I
think that might have just been...
They were not willing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They were not willing to take anything for DA. Offers came in and they said no.
And I think that might have just been kind of, a mix up of words, not so much as that's the package the Suns were willing to accept, but that was a package that was offered kind of a way. Because again, like you said, if they were willing to accept it, they would have accepted it on draft.
If they could have gotten away with Rashawn Holmes and Tim Hardaway Jr., they would have done that. They need a big for Luka.
But let's go back to the other side of this clip here, and that is that Monty Williams leaving the organization didn't fix everything between DA and the organization and everyone else within the organization. And I think that's one of the things that we pointed to yesterday. There just seems like the frustration had grown. It could have been from DA towards the organization towards DA, or a mix of both. That just was non-repairable.
I think it goes to a couple of things. And I think you can go back to the summer of 2021. They go to the finals. DA does all the little things that help the Suns win. And I said this at the time. I said, I don't think DA is worth a max contract in a vacuum, but I think you pay it because you need to send the right message to him. You need to tell him, we see what you did during this finals run. We need you to keep doing those things. And even if it's a slight overpay, we're going to give you max money to keep doing those things. Yeah. And I think when they didn't pay him that money, you can say it was the right call not giving him another max deal, because then you could trade for Kevin Durant a couple of years later. And I totally understand that. But from the perspective of DA and the Suns, by not giving him that contract, then you sent the message to him that what I did during this finals run, us having the team success, me doing all the gritty work on the interior isn't enough. I need to do more. And so he came into training camp that season literally telling us in the first media scrum at training camp, I don't like my big man duties. I want to shoot more threes. I want to do more on offense. And it's great when a number 1 overall pick shows initiative to want to expand his game. But doing those things, he didn't have the skill set for them, and they weren't going to help the Suns offense get better. So then you have this whole season where he's playing for a contract. And since then, they've been walking this tightrope act between, can we get him enough touches to keep him happy? Can we give him opportunities to expand his skill set a little bit and show us if he can do more, versus doing what we need him to do to win basketball games, the defense, the contesting shots, the rebounding, crashing the glass on the offensive end, setting good screens and rolling and sealing with purpose. Yep. And so I think we got to a point where the Suns were just kind of tired of walking that balancing act and not being able to do it. And Flex, I know you have some insight as well on the whole Game 6 situation that was mentioned in the clip.
Yeah, I have a lot of insight on that, actually. I actually did a podcast. It's okay to say the podcast?
Yeah.
Above the Rim podcast. You guys can go look at it. It was maybe 2 days after the Suns got eliminated. And I had got this information right before I did that show. And it was pretty damn alarming, man. here's what I was told, and this is what I said on the podcast. DeAndre got hurt in Game 5. There was the night of the game, and then a day off, and then the game a couple days later, Game 6. The problem is that when DeAndre got hurt, the communication from him was not taken well by the team. Like, he literally at one point said, I am not playing Game 6, while they're still in a locker room and getting ready to go back home for Game 6. And there are people that question that. They're saying, hey, you haven't saw the doctor? You hadn't gotten therapy? You haven't really gotten checked out? Like, what are we doing? Why are we ruling ourselves out of a game and we haven't even got to the game? You may wake up tomorrow and feel better. Now, I want to be clear about this. This is DeAndre's statement and how some people may have perceived it. With that said, DeAndre was hurt. And is that something, you guys everybody here play ball. You know when you're hurt, right? Saul, you know when you're hurt, correct? So if you...
I'm hurting, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right.
Sometimes you get hurt in basketball and you just know this is a bad one. I'm not going to be able to be okay. But I don't know that you communicated that way. I think you do everything you can up until the game to get on the court. And I don't think he did that. So I think that's what kind of got people a little bit frustrated about that Game 5 and Game 6. And I think that was the beginning of maybe some people not trusting DA anymore. I'm not going to jump in a foxhole with this guy. So that's what they're talking about. And I can confirm emphatically that happened.
Right. It's a tough situation because, like you said, I think DA was legitimately hurt. We talked to him at exit interviews a day after Game 6. And, he was talking about it hurts to just sit up right now in front of you guys. So I think he was legitimately hurt, but you're right. To your point, it would probably rub your teammates the wrong way if you just came out right after Game 5 facing elimination at home. You just got your ass beat in Denver. Everybody needs to rally together, and the guy comes in and automatically rules himself out for Game 5 or Game 6 and does it in that way. I understand. And we saw the body language when he was playing too. Like, we saw it from KD and Book, the plays where the Suns got beat on defense, or that one play that he had where he caught the ball on the roll and Michael Porter Jr. was right in front of him and he just laid it up and missed the layup instead of dunking it. Like, those were deflating plays that you could feel it in the arena. You could feel it on the Suns bench. And I think they were just kind of tired of having to constantly boost someone up because that's what DA needed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this from my perspective. Again, I do like DeAndre Ayton, but I could see how that would wear on a team. Especially, listen, this isn't the first time, superstars or, a superstar has butted heads with somebody else on their team. Like, go back to Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah.
The reason why Shaq ended up being the one on the way out was because Kobe didn't feel like Shaq had a work ethic strong enough to continue their championship progress. Yeah. And he would call them out on that, and they would fight, and they didn't like each other because Shaq didn't like to be called out like that. But there was good reason for it because he wasn't putting in the work. And so, when you look at Devin Booker and then you add Kevin Durant and you had Chris Paul, those guys work. They work really, really hard. And I don't think that they saw themselves in DA. I think they view DA in a different kind of category, and they hoped that his talent would overcome his work ethic, but it never happened. That's why you got so much inconsistency. EJ and I were talking about that today, and I said one of the things that I kind of push back on is this narrative that DA didn't get the ball enough or DA didn't get this. I used to say that. I used to be that guy and say, but when we talked about the Miami Heat culture, what was Spo's thing?
Spo's thing.
What's his phrase? He said, he's like, make me play you.
Oh, yeah, make me play you. Make me watch you, make me play you.
Yes. And I don't think that DeAndre Ayton was that type of dude. He wasn't the one to force his will. Like, the great ones will impose their will on their team. If DeAndre Ayton was an all-star level player and a dominant player, like he would force the issue, like without a doubt. Every time he did touch the rock, motherfucker, you got no chance. Boom, got him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he never had that dog in him. He never did. You know, and we thought he did when he got drafted. He showed some of it at U of A, a lot. I thought he did, but it was just too much of this. And it became unreliable. And I could see why a guy like Devin Booker, like, listen, Devin Booker is the alpha on this team.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. And if you're not trying to ride, you know, with him, then you're going to be out. And I think that's ultimately what happened and the reason why it happened.
And I think, too, to your point, like, I think he, as far as whether he had the dog in him or not, I think part of it, too, is that he was not good at evaluating himself.
Yeah.
I think he saw things for himself that the things that he worked on in the off season didn't necessarily translate to doing those things. Like he came in after the finals run telling us about how he wanted to shoot more threes. And we were like, okay, like you got a good mid-range stroke, but like, I don't see you taking 2 or 3 threes a game. Neither did Monty, neither did anybody on the team.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, if you let him do that, maybe he'll get better at it. But this team is contending for championships. Like, they don't have time to mess around with that type of stuff. So it's tough. I do hope this fresh start is good for him, not just because he needs a change of scenery, but because this particular change of scenery will allow him to get those opportunities to take threes or to work on his handle or to have these other opportunities on offense that he just wasn't going to have here because, you know, it's a young Portland team. He's going to get tons of touches and opportunities to grow his game.
I also think one of the things with DA off the court is just how he communicates sometimes can be misunderstood. And I personally don't believe that's intentional. I'm choosing not to believe it's intentional. But when it happens over and over again, I think it can rub people the wrong way. Because we talked, I don't even remember if it was earlier this week or if it was last week, we were talking about the comments about, you know, his teammates playing for Team Bahama and this is the best team I've played for, my favorite teammates, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that he meant that in a kind of petty, spiteful way towards the teammates he's played with on the Phoenix Suns, but I could understand how some of those teammates would take that.
Right.
The injury thing, Game 6, if he was saying, you know, like he's going to know his own body, but it's dependent on maybe the way he communicated that injury. If he was nonchalant about it, that would rub somebody the wrong way. If he came into the locker room throwing things, pissed off to the ends of the world that he wasn't able to play.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it comes down to that too. And that might be somewhere where he could grow as well, just as a human being, but especially as a teammate. Like the way you deliver these things are also important. The words you use when you're speaking about your organization, your work ethic, your team, all the things, they're important because it can rub people the wrong way. And it gives you a reputation that may not be true, but it'll stick with you.
EJ said he had to stop commentating on the potential and what he could have done, and just started really commenting on what he's doing. And I think that kind of speaks volumes in itself.
Yeah,
because there was too much stuff that might have been able to be pointed out in terms of the things that he was not doing. That would lead you down the wrong road. And so you just have to kind of state the facts at a certain point. He did make a couple of good points about, you know, just his involvement in the offense and the subsequent delay of his progress and getting touches and stuff like that. Cause he said, you know, there would be 4, 5, 6 times he would come down the court. He would do everything he's being asked to do. He would get into a position to be able to get the ball and score. They didn't go to him.
Yeah.
And then the 7th or 8th time he comes off and he's like, well, I've done this shit 8 times already. I'm probably not going to get it this time. And that's when he would get it and he'd be caught off guard and then he'd look stupid and stuff like that. And I just think there's a balance everywhere about how this all went wrong. I think there's a mixture of everything. My concern about DA moving forward would be if he doesn't learn the lesson here and he gets over to Portland and he carries on some of the same shit over there, he's going to get traded again. And EJ said that today. And I was just like, that's a good point. And then he becomes another first-round pick or number 1 pick that ends up being a journeyman and a what if. And I hope this is a wake-up call. I hope he doesn't view this as, oh, finally, I got away from these guys. Now I'm going to thrive. I hope it's oh, I got away from these guys. I'm about to prove them fucking wrong and get to work. And I don't know. And again, I don't know which one that's going to be.
Can I comment on that? Because that's interesting. I had a conversation yesterday about this very thing with someone around Portland. And he's going to a team that their coach was very much in the same spot. Like, people forget Chauncey Billups was drafted by Boston, traded by Boston, right? And went to Denver and he became Mr. Big Shot, right? With Detroit. Well, he's playing for that coach now. And what someone told me yesterday is very enlightening. He said, in boxing, styles make fights. You get the two right styles, it becomes a legendary fight, right? In basketball, situation and opportunity make careers. If Kobe is not traded to the Lakers and stays with the Hornets, who knows what the legacy of Kobe Bryant is, right? So it's all opportunity and situation. DA has a chance to rewrite all this with a coach that has kind of lived that narrative. And I'm rooting for him. I think DA is going to be fine. I think he's going to go out there, get more opportunity. I think me and Gerald talked about it pre-show. The shots for DeAndre Ayton this year, if it was an over-under, it'd be like between 8 and 10.
Yeah.
Right? But now you're getting 20. So go out there and show what you can do with 20 shots as a focal point on a young team. And hopefully it turns around, and hopefully it's a good thing for both sides.
Yeah, I do hope he gets that opportunity and, like Saul said, comes out with a chip on his shoulder and plays well there. I do think one thing that would help him exponentially is he had one of the best and worst things about DA is he will always say what's on his mind. And sometimes he kind of just blurts out whatever is on his mind. And to your point about the communication, I think sometimes that can get him in trouble. Maybe after game 5, that very tendency is something that made him blurt that out. Like, I'm not playing game 6 or something like that. And I do think it doesn't help with the way that he's perceived when that happens. Like he gets perceived as like, oh, he's not smart or he's immature or whatever you want to call it. And he's not. He's a very smart dude and he is mature. But when he just, blurts whatever is off the top of his head, it can come off that way. So I hope that the fans in Portland are good to him and that he gets to flourish there. But for people that were wondering why the Suns had this inclination of like, we need to trade DA or making this move that feels like an addition by subtraction kind of move, those are some of the things that probably went on behind the scenes and were grating to deal with after a certain amount of time. Because I know Monty would be diligent about trying to find certain specific tasks on a game-to-game basis to keep him engaged. Like, we need this many rebounds out of you, or we need you to stop this guy tonight and focus on that. And when he did those things, DA would accomplish those tasks. But it can get a little tiresome. It can get tiresome to keep having to put carrots in front of somebody and keep them motivated.
I saw something, AZ Family. I'm sorry, I don't want to be long-winded here, but AZ Family did a recap this weekend. Did y'all see that? The Suns rewind for the season? Long story short, I was watching that. There was a clip about DeAndre Ayton when he came back to Madison Square Garden, played the Knicks. He had 35 and 15 in that game. That's DeAndre Ayton. Very interesting part of that clip. You guys should check it out. When he gets in the locker room, he sits down. Monty Williams goes, shout out to the young buck, 35 and 15. Everybody goes crazy. Young buck is the word he used. Now think about this. How long has DeAndre been on this team? Right? That tells me something. That tells me something. I saw that clip and I looked and I'm like, damn. I mean, he is young. He's 25.
Yeah, but he was kind of the elder statesman. Alongside Devin.
Correct.
He's been here the longest.
Correct. Yeah. So is he still the young buck? And if I got to call the young buck, and that caught my attention. And I think it kind of, makes all this make sense in a sense.
It's unfortunate, but hopefully it works out for the best for both parties. And we wish DA the best of luck in Portland, but we hope the Suns got the better end of the deal here, just selfishly.
Scoot is no joke. I'm just saying that. And he's going to get a lot of shine, and DA's got to be ready for that too. I'm telling you, it's not going to be all sunshine and roses over there in Portland. Like, he's going to have to ball out too, because the minute he doesn't, those guys, they're trying to make a name for themselves in the league too. They're going to bypass him too.
Talk to him, Saul.
Then we're going to be this is going to repeat all over again.
Talk to him, Saul.
He's got to come with a different mindset completely.
All right, we did get a super chat from Omar. Again, thank you so much, Omar. Appreciate you for dropping another $50 in the super chat. Said, shout out to Saul for hooking a brother up.
I got
there you go. Thank you for being here, Omar, both yesterday and today. We appreciate you.
Guy.
Also, friends, don't forget to check out our friends at OG's. They want to be your friends as well. They make the best scratch meat THC gummies you can find. And if you're stuck on what kind of gummies to get, OG's has taken the guesswork out of it. The decision is super easy now that they have the fruits and the creams mixed bags. You can try all the different fruits flavors in one bag and all the different creams flavors in another bag. Plus, the fruits and the creams are available in both the Sunny Sativa or the Mellow Indica blend, allowing you to really customize your OG's experience based on your mood and the time of day. So check out OG's brands for yourself and try one or a few of their many delicious flavors. You can find them on social at OG's Brands or online at ogsbrands.com to find a local dispensary near you, but you must be 21 years or older, and we ask that you enjoy responsibly. Also, now that it's cooling down here in the Valley, you can sit outside on patios again, and I'm so excited for that. And the best patio you're going to find in town is, of course, at Illegal Pete's. It is your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer, and it has been for 28 years. And the best part is that their happy hour is 3 to 8 p.m. every single day at all 12 locations. So make sure you check out our friends over at Illegal Pete's. All right, we talked a lot about DA. Let's talk a little bit now about some of the other pieces in the trade, specifically the pieces that the Suns got back. We'll start with Jusuf Nurkic, and we were able to actually have a conversation with someone from Portland, and here's what he had to say about Nurk.
What are his strengths? What I've heard is he's unbelievable at setting screens, is a good rebounder, and can pass, but motivation at times is a problem. Is that a good read?
Well, I'll put it this way. He spent all of last summer playing for Bosnia in the Eurobasket tournament, and then he still somehow came into camp out of shape.
Oh, geez.
So that's been, I know over the course of the season, Chauncey Billups has been pretty frustrated with that aspect of things. But, and he's also a guy like personality. Like, he's not a bad guy. Nurk is a good person. He's a good guy. I like him a lot personally. I've never had an issue with him. He does get very moody sometimes when he's not getting the ball as much as he would like, or when something isn't going the way that he would like. I think that's a very real thing with him. I think, and if you want to talk about like him expanding his game, I'm going to pull the numbers up here just so I have it, but this past year, he started actually shooting threes more than he than he had in the past, and he was actually, I'm pulling this up. He shot 2.3 3-point attempts per game. And they were mostly like wide open looks because nobody's guarding Jusuf Nurkic out there. But 2.3 attempts per game, which is way more than he's ever shot in a season before that. And he shot 36.1% on those attempts, which is not like elite, but that's respectable. Like, you got to put someone on him at that point.
Nothing makes me feel better than knowing that we got a player that, he could be this, he could be this. It just depends.
See, Espo said that yesterday, and I will say what I told Espo yesterday. There's a big difference between not being motivated on a Portland Trailblazers team that's trying to lose and doing that for a title contender that has Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal on your ass if you're not motivated. So I don't know. I mean, it's something to watch out for sure. It's alarming to hear those words being said because we said them pretty often about DA. But I do think the context of situation matters there.
If we got rid of DA and got the same problems, I will be a little salty.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I will.
Yeah. But all of us,
I would be a little
collectively,
salty.
We need to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know that there are things that come with any player, any team, whatever baggage, reputation, whatever. You got to give him a benefit of a doubt on your team.
I don't understand. But again, like I never mind.
And he's also being paid $15 million less. So if the problems are the same and he's not the answer at center, at least it's easier to trade that contract than it would have been midseason to deal DA. That is the silver lining. And I know a lot of people wanted to see DA under Vogel, myself included. But if it didn't work out, you would have had a much harder time trading him mid-season. And we saw last year what a significant mid-season trade can do if you don't have enough time to get all your ducks in a row before the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Nurk's not perfect, man.
No.
I mean, he's not perfect. He's a good NBA center, but he's got his flaws. That kind of sounded like a DA scouting report when you're listening to it. But
I mean, doesn't it?
No, it did. It sounded like a DA scouting report. I didn't hear it. This is the first time I heard it. And I'm listening to it right now, and I'm like, damn, we're talking about DA. So it did sound a little disappointing to hear that, but I do agree with Gerald. It's kind of similar to the Brad Beal thing. You know, Brad Beal in Washington with a tanking team and now playing with the Phoenix Suns is two different variables. You're going to see a different Brad Beal, and I think you'll see a different Nurkic on a championship team.
And there are areas where, of course, Deandre Ayton is better than Nurk. And there are areas where Nurk can maybe help the Suns out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Gerald, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this one. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So for anyone who is new here, we do a newsletter that's sent directly to your inbox for diehard members only. So make sure to become a member, subscribe to the newsletter if you want some exclusive content from yours truly in your inbox. And I wrote about 3 areas where Jusuf Nurkic will actually help the Suns a little bit more than DA. And I'm not here trying to convince anyone that Nurkic is a better player than DA, but I do think he brings a couple of things to the table that maybe DA didn't. Hyken mentioned it in the video there about the 3-point shooting. As far as being 36%, that's not great, but it's good for a big man. And he shot really well on above the break threes, which is where he would be getting catch and shoot looks out of the pick and pop. So if he's able to continue that, you add a spacing element to the offense that you did not have with DA, because however you want to look at it, he couldn't shoot threes or he wasn't allowed to, whichever it was. And the other thing with that spacing is that he's a better passer than DA. You know, he's averaged 3 assists over the last 5 seasons. DA has never averaged more than 2 assists in a season. And I do think that matters because how many times did we see DA catch the ball in the pick and pop and kind of short circuit as far as like, okay, there's a low man 5 feet in front of me. I'm just going to pull up for the mid range instead of taking one power dribble, forcing the issue, trying to get to the free throw line, trying to get to the basket. It was frustrating at times because he didn't have that confidence to close the gap and attack the rim. Nurkic is not a good finisher. He's nowhere near as good as DA in that regard, but he is good at finding guys on the backside. He's a good passer. He's really good at being what we had with Frank Kaminsky and Dario Saric before, as far as being a connector at the top of the key that can hit cutters. And that's something that DA, love him, but all of his passes were 2-hand overhead bullet passes.
Yeah.
Nurkic has a little bit more dexterity in his game, so I think that'll help open things up as well. And then just the overall activity, like I'm not going to sell you Nurkic as a better defender than DA, but he was more engaged around the basket at trying to deter shots than DA was last season. He was a little bit more active on the offensive glass. All the advanced stats kind of bear these things out. So I think if you have an engaged Nurkic under a defensive-minded coach like Vogel, those things could matter. I think come playoff time, he's going to really have to prove that he can stay on the court, and I'm not sold that that's even a thing. But for the regular season, at least you have a guy that, if he's healthy, can get the job done defensively. You have enough tools around him to make it work, and he brings a couple of different assets to the table that DA just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, listen, offensive rating, Nurkic was better. Now, I'm not a big analytics guy. I'm not. But he had a better offensive rating, better defensive rating, and a better net rating than DeAndre. Situations mean everything, man. And I think Nurk is going to... Here's one thing I will say. I don't think we ever got to the point where DeAndre embraced the role in Phoenix, right? As the 3rd or 4th option. I think he always did it, but I think in the back of his mind, he's saying, man, I was the first pick, man. I could be a number 1. Right? I'm being told to be a 3rd or 4th option, but I could be a number 1. The difference is Nurk is a 4th option. He knows it, right? He's done it his whole career. So DeAndre is the better player. I think Nurk is the better fit for this role. If you're going to get 8 to 10 shots from DeAndre, Nurk will be just fine getting those 8 to 10 shots and doing it the way he's always done it. So, again, I think it's more of a fit thing. DeAndre is the better player. Nurk might be the better fit, though. But in the playoffs, it could get tough. Like
I mean, I get it. I mean, it's easier said than done, though, because I know Nurk wants to score too. Like, he likes the ball. Like, everybody was wanting DA to be Ben Wallace 2.0 or Dennis Rodman 2.0. Guys that could give a shit less about scoring, really. They just wanted to rebound, play defense, and beat people up. Like, and DA was never going to be that guy. And now we're expecting somebody else to essentially play that role to a certain degree. And I don't know how it's going to work out. I really don't. I think there's some things about this team that I think definitely make it a championship contender. I don't know if Jusuf Nurkic is one of them. I won't know until we get to see some of these games and see how they play and what his demeanor is like and how he reacts to certain things, because most basketball players want to be able to be involved on the offensive side to get rewarded for effort. And I don't give a shit who you are. Like, you run that court, 18 times and you don't touch the ball once, you feel some kind of type of way about that.
Do you feel like Jock got rewarded?
Who?
Landale? Jock?
Jock?
When he was on the court, how did you feel?
I would say that because of Jock's effort, it was different, and the guys would seek to reward him more than DA. So that's
my point.
Yes,
with Nurk.
I don't know if Nurkic is going to be that dude.
I think he could, man.
Okay,
that's my opinion.
I think you could also look to his age too. He's 29, and so maybe at this point in his career, he really wants a championship.
Yeah.
And so he's willing. He's come from he's at a different path than DA has, right? DA only had a couple years of the dog days. Nurk may be more willing to sacrifice because he's been through some of the dog days on other teams where he's like, I know if I do this, I'm going to get rewarded with championship. And I want that more than I want the scoring accolades or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's just a different perspective sometimes will change everything.
Yeah.
That's the hope, because they need him to set, like, he apparently sets bone crushing screens, which is really good for this big three that the Suns have. What?
Brian McKnight in the chat.
No. The answer is no.
Man, let's go.
I'm not. He asked if we're booing Ayton when he comes back. I personally am
That's
not.
the part you took away?
Oh, I think he was just more so reacting
like,
to
it's Brian
Brian
McKnight.
McKnight being in the chat.
I love
I
Brian.
mean, there's a lot of names in the chat.
Appreciate you here, Brian McKnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need him to set screens, roll with purpose, crash the offensive glass, do the little things. He has had a pretty high usage rate the last couple of years in Portland, so that might be an adjustment here. But again, I don't know how you come here as a big who's been on a bad team for the last couple of years. You get to play with Book and KD for Vogel with Bradley Beal and are like, I need more touches.
He looked excited on
It'd be
Twitter.
tough. It would be tough.
I mean, he seemed excited to come to Phoenix.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Nurk?
yeah, and it's another thing from conversations I had last night. Book and KD, they seem to operate better with a big that stretches the floor, because it opens up the paint for them to operate, and that's where they want to live. With DeAndre not being able to go out to the 3-point line and not be able to really put pressure in that way, I think Nurk is going to add a different dynamic to that, and I think he's going to be rewarded. I tell you what, if he's shooting 2.6, they said
2.3 threes a game.
2.3 threes a game, I think that gets bumped up to 3+ this year, and I think if he makes a couple, then we get dangerous.
It would be great if he does, and I do think if that is something that happens, the Suns need to make a concerted effort, especially their big three, to attack the basket more. Bradley Beal does it a ton, but we've seen the Suns team in the years past has not put enough pressure on the rim. And I think if you're taking away DA's finishing ability, he shot like 78% at the rim. Nurkic is only at like 62. So you need to make up for some of that rim pressure somehow. And I think if Nurkic can spread the floor, you really want those three guys to attack more often.
All right, before we move on to our next one, a reminder that Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season, specifically for all of you. Shady Rays has premium polarized sunglasses, gear that is built to last. They are just as good as the expensive sunglasses, but they are much more affordable. And on top of that, this deal I'm about to tell you is going to make them even more affordable. So right now, if you go to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX, you're going to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. you can try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Also, our friends over at Splash Sports have a ton of great stuff happening, and we have partnered with them for a weekly Pick X and NFL Survivor contest for everyone to participate in for real money. So all you have to do is head to splashsports.com/PHNX. The link is in the description, and sign up. It's as simple as that. So again, head to splashsports.com/PHNX to join in. We'll have different contests coming out, and we are super excited to compete with and against all of you. So be sure to click the link in the description for more information.
Before we move on to the next topic, can I ask you guys a hypothetical question?
I hate hypothetical questions.
Well, lucky for you, I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, so I know everybody loves Cam and Mikal, the sweet baby angels, and they cannot do anything wrong. Are you guys going to feel the same way when Mikal hits a 3 and turns to the bench and does that? Like, are you going to be like, yeah, Mikal?
Absolutely.
Hell no.
I mean, I don't do that after any play, but I'm going to laugh at it for sure.
I would laugh at it because the relation, well, I guess it depends.
What if the players,
if it's towards Book, the relationship is there.
What if the players like react like, negatively towards it?
It's a whole new team. Mikal didn't play with any of these guys.
Only
Book.
Like, we cool with that?
Hey, no, I'm gonna tell you what I do. I'm going at if I'm a ball player.
Don't let him hit that 3.
Hey, Cal, you come to my bench and do that, I'm going after you. He better not do that while I'm at a game and I'm watching.
It's not gonna hurt me because I'm booing.
Yeah, no, Cal could go kick rocks when he comes to the Valley. No, I'll cheer for him in Brooklyn.
It hurts because Mikal did that to your guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Emma means by it hurts a little. Not that we don't have Mikal anymore. It hurts that Mikal did it to us.
Hell yeah. I don't want
it's
that.
like it's like, damn, we used to root for that, and then it just happened to us.
It's like, how dare you?
It's kind of disrespectful, not gonna lie.
Because what I think is like everybody loves him and everything's all good right now. Because he has not had to play your team yet.
Yeah.
But if he came out and dropped like 45 and cost you a game, you might feel a little differently about Mikal or Cam.
Yeah, because when Luka does it, we get pissed.
Yeah.
So we can't give Cal a pass.
Yeah, but so what's the purpose of this exercise?
I feel like you're still going to be Team Mikal no matter what.
I feel like the difference is if when Luka does that, we know Luka and Book hate each other.
Right.
When Mikal does that to Book the first time, we know that off the court it's all love. Like it's one regular season game.
So I guess we'll go back to this then. So when Ayton, if he does it, is it going to be like Luka against Book then?
Probably, yeah.
No, I don't think it'll be that extreme. It's somewhere in the middle. I think it's in the middle.
I know for a fact there are a lot of Suns fans that are rooting for him to fail.
Yes.
I know for a fact that, and we've talked about this, that like this DA trade would not have happened if Book and KD did not okay it. So we know that they were okay with moving on from DA, which adds a little fuel to the fire the next time they play each other. Like, and also like DA never had any signature like celebration that was like Mikal's. I think that's a factor as well.
I want to add to
this. I'm gonna laugh my ass off when DA tries to fucking dunk for the first time when he would have laid it up normally. And he just tries to dunk
down the rim
and then he's like flexes and shit. Like, dude, motherfucker, I swear to God. I'm gonna be salty about that.
Can I add to this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the consensus is when Mikal and Cam come here, there's going to be a standing ovation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the consensus is when DA brings his ass here for game 1,
I think it'll be 50-50.
It's going to be very mixed.
Yeah,
it's going to be very
for sure.
You're not going to be able to tell who won.
It'll be respectful, but I do think, to your point, it won't be as enthusiastic as the Twins.
Right.
I agree.
And then when the Trims drop 60 on the Suns, the Twins, when they drop 60, then we'll see how people change their feelings.
Then you know what we do? We sick our guy on him. Grayson Allen, baby.
No.
Let's go, Grayson. Let's go.
Take your asses back to Brooklyn.
Too far. That is reserved for other a-holes, not sweet baby angels. Too far, you guys.
Trip them all the way down the court.
Brooklyn,
Get them all.
I know it's been a chaotic 24 hours, but reel it in, you two.
Back-to-backs with the Nets and the Mavs. You trip the Twins, and then you scissor kick Luka in the head. You have just rallied the Valley. Let's go.
Gerald and I are like, absolutely not. We do not
Help me.
subscribe.
How are you gonna, but
we
I'm
do
trapped
not
in this.
subscribe.
I'm
oh my
trapped in
God.
this.
How are you going to feel if that happens, though?
What?
If Grayson does something to Mikal or Cam? Oh my God, the conflict.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Who's got the Sun jersey on?
I
Right
guarantee
Who's got
now-
the Suns
I
jersey
guarantee
on?
you
Grayson?
more Suns fans will side with Mikal and
Yeah.
Cam than they will with
That is
Grayson Allen.
wild.
See, I can't never get behind that.
But we're
I can
talking
never get
about,
behind that.
are we talking about a hard play or are we talking about a dirty play? Because there's two
I'm not
totally
talking
different
Kurt
things.
Rambis like
Because
clothesline
if it's
play.
just a hard foul, that's one thing.
Yeah,
If
but-
it's dirty, though, it doesn't matter who's doing it. If it's dirty, it's dirty.
If it's
Yeah,
dirty,
no,
I don't
your
support
team
it.
is
I don't
not.
want dirty. I don't
But
want
anything
dirty.
Grayson does that might be considered aggressive or over the top, or let's just say it's a hard foul. It will be viewed as a dirty play
Because
it's
his
Grayson Allen.
reputation
Yeah, I know.
of
But what
dirty
if
plays.
But if he did that to, like, if he had a hard foul on Mikal and Mikal fell and he hurt his wrist, like old boy did. Now that was a dirty play. But
That was a dirty
but
play.
like let's just say it was it was just a hard contact foul and Mikal fell. I do wonder what would the reaction be across the board. You hurt Mikal? Like, yeah, but it was a hard play.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
But if you want the benefit of the doubt, don't put yourself in a position where we're never going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Fact.
That's more about
Fact.
Allen.
You
than
can't
the
ask for the
Suns'
benefit of
dilemma.
the doubt when you've already proved us wrong 85 times.
So hold on.
He got the benefit of the doubt because he became a Phoenix Sun.
So hold on though.
But you don't give Nurk a benefit of the doubt.
I'm with
Excuse
Saul
me.
though.
I did not say I wasn't going to.
I'm with
But
Saul.
you were hesitant.
I didn't say a single word about that whole segment, did I?
Hold on.
You were hesitant. You
So-
weren't on board.
If Luka's got 40, it's fourth quarter, Luka's lighting us up. And he comes to the hole, and it's a tight game, and Grayson goes in and competes with him at the rim. Hard contact. What are we saying? Hell yeah, Grayson.
Again.
Put him on the ground. Now, that same play, let's just take the same play. Mikal got 40. It's a tight game. We're fighting for the 1 seed in the West. We got to win tonight. And Grayson decides, man, somebody got to cool this damn guy down. Go get that.
If it's
I'm cheering, man.
Again,
I'm cheering,
if
man.
it's a hard
Right.
foul, I'm fine. If it's dirty, that's the line.
It doesn't
It's as
matter to
simple
me
as
who
that.
it is. Yeah,
It
the
doesn't matter who it is.
Answer's the same for
I
both
don't want it to be. I'm not
situations.
saying it's dirty. I'm saying it's a hard
That's fine.
get your ass on the ground
fine.
foul, and I'm not picking you up.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
okay
played
with
my
that.
hypothetical game.
And it made me angry, and I'm upset about it now.
Triggered.
I did not want to play this game. I didn't sign up for this.
My guy early in the chat, Atronach. No, you passed
Oh
it.
my goodness.
Atronach
gracious.
just said, "LOL, damn, this pot is a whirlpool right now."
Yeah. Well,
That's what I do. Sorry.
welcome. Especially when we reach that like 1 hour mark, that's when things really start to go a little bit off the rails. Okay, so to round things out, let's talk a little bit about Nassir Little. We also were able to get some insight on him from Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report newsletter and podcast.
If you want to get really excited about somebody in in this trade coming back, the guy that I would look at as this is a guy that really, super young, still has some upside, probably needs a fresh start and a change of scenery. The guy I would look at is Nassir Little. I think that's going to be. I think that he's going to become a fan favorite pretty quickly. I think.
Okay. What can you tell us about his game? Because I know looking at the numbers, obviously it's not going to paint the clear picture. Playing bench minutes or limited minutes his first 3 or 4 seasons in Portland.
Well, he's a dog. I'll put it that way. He mentality wise, he's gonna dive on the floor, go after loose balls, that kind of stuff. He's gotten better, I think, as a shooter. He has the body to be. He's one of those guys where you look at the physical tools, you look at the body, and you can say, oh, he could be like a good good modern defensive wing, and that's kind of what they tried to do with him. It never came together for whatever reason, whether it's health, because he's had a lot of different injury stuff, and it's not anything that I think is really recurring. It's all just kind of a bunch of unrelated stuff that he was just really unlucky with. But he was also, I think it was just one of those situations where he makes a couple of defensive lapses and then Chauncey kind of pulls him and doesn't put. It's one of those things where sometimes a coach will have a short leash for a young guy, but he's talented and he works hard. And I think he's a guy that I would, I think people are going to really take to, personality wise, everything else, mentality wise, I think he's about the right things, and he's going to, I think he's somebody that fans in Phoenix are going to like a lot, whether he, is able to have an impact or not.
That's fair.
All right, so we're guys. When we played that clip, we're still arguing about
Mikhail, we love
it. We're still arguing about it, even though we
it's
were
a flawed argument.
Terrible. Look
We
what you
love
did to us,
Mikhail.
Saul. You've broken this group, and I hate it. Anyway, back to Nassir Little. He might end up being one of the bright spots of this trade. Maybe something that a little bit of a sleeper, right? And that's exciting. Somebody we can get on board with.
I'm super excited about Nassir Little. I am. And I did a deep dive yesterday. I had a long conversation with some of my Portland guys. And, I mean, Nassir went through some stuff last year. Let's chop it down a little bit. He's 19 years old. He plays his first 2 years in Portland, 19 and 20. Okay? They kind of let him ease into things. And then that third year, he was really good. Okay? That third year, he was fantastic, played with a lot of energy, defending, rebounding, jumping out the gym, highlight dunks, shooting a three ball, creating offense. I mean, there was a lot to be excited about in his year 3. Okay? And then year 4, there was an expectation for him to kind of rev it up, but he was hurt. You know, I'm not sure if this is completely out there, but I know Nassir dealt with a core muscle injury all year last year, on top of a hip injury that caused him to miss like 30 games. So when you look at the tape from 2 years ago versus last year, which I did yesterday extensively, you could see his athletic ability was getting swept under the, like he was getting blown by guys that normally he would clamp. And you can tell he was playing hurt. And then also the Chauncey factor. There was a short leash with Chauncey. So I think Nassir is primed to have a really good year this year. And I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I really do. I think there's going to be a situation where this kid is going to play a big role with this team around Book, KD, and Beal. He's just super intriguing, guys. I'm saying it right now. We're going to do shows. We're going to do 5 shows this year, Linz, where we're going to think Nassir Little had a dunk of the year with this team. He's that athletic and that dynamic. He's just got to get consistent and cure up some of the injury stuff.
Yeah, he is intriguing for the athleticism. The fact that he's only 6'5" as a small forward is made up for the fact that he's got like a near 7'2" wingspan. Yeah. So he's a guy that can compete on both ends.
He's a long gentleman.
Stop it right now.
We're not going down that rabbit hole again.
Keep going. Sorry.
I don't know what I'm going to say now.
Okay, then fine. Since we already derailed it, Saul and I are literally about to fight. You guys, we're having a battle in the chat right now.
Ass.
Me, Saul, and all of you. Like, so Jay was like, Saul Grayson Allen this podcast. And I said, Saul is Grayson Allen right now. And then I said, I'm about to fight Saul for real. And now apparently this is just becoming the nature of this season is we're all just going to be fighting everybody. And it's all because Grayson Allen and Saul started it.
You know, it'd be great, Linz.
You brought out the worst in me, Saul.
You know, it'd be great if when the show ends, right before we go, you trip Saul. That would do it, yo. That would do it.
You better be careful. One of these days, I might come in here and just trip you. I might. And it'll definitely be an accident.
Just be careful. That stool might
That's
be
what
a
Grayson
little bit
says all the
far.
time. It's an accident.
You guys, what is this life? What is happening to us?
I love Nassir Little. I love him. I love what he brings to the table. I'm trying to get us back on track.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm off the rails. I'm not getting back on. I refuse.
I would. You guys tell me if I'm wrong because I thought about this yesterday. We talked about Okogie and KBD. I could see very easily at some point Nassir Little becoming that 5th starter.
Didn't we not talk about that, Gerald?
We
before?
did. We talked about it before the show. I'm still leaning towards the start of the season, Okogie or KBD. But if he proves himself, he could work himself into the running for that spot.
It'll definitely make for more competitive practices, which is never a bad thing. We've talked about that already with this new group of guys, but you add these two into the mix, and especially Little, that competition is going to be competition throughout the season of who gets and keeps that spot.
I want to see, man, I wish we could see the practices.
Oh, man.
Man, I really wish we could see
Okogie and
the
Little.
practice. Oh, man, I bet those practices, okay. Let me take you guys behind the curtain a little bit. Gerald and Lindsay both know this. Being there in practice with Devin Booker in the last like 20 minutes of practice when they would open up to the media and you can go in there, guys would get a little bit of extra work. And Devin Booker is he's an uber aggressive guy. He will talk some trash. He's bodying dudes. Like he's making them feel little, like because he's trying to get them to come up to his game, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have other dudes and Bradley Beal, KD, and then you have the rest of everybody else in the bench. And you have guys that have proven themselves in the league, like Eric Gordon. You have guys that are trying to prove themselves in the league, like Jordan Goodwin. Yeah. Jordan Goodwin is a dog going up against somebody like, like Eric Gordon, or going up against somebody like Book. And he's not going to back down either, because we could see that in Summer League. And then you have all these other elements. And oh my God, I just feel like, I know everybody talks about like maybe this team took a step back defensively because they lost DA athletically, right? Mm-hmm. But I really don't feel like that's going to be the ultimate case, because I feel like the collective will build each other up defensively to a certain point where it's not going to matter. Everybody's going to be okay. Even Nurkic, who might be slow on the perimeter, they'll figure out a way to better utilize him in the defense so he's not as exposed. Pigeon hunting won't happen as much with Nurkic. I'm excited for this team. Yeah. I was excited yesterday, obviously stunned, but I think this team is they're going to be a lot more grittier than any other Suns team we've had. I really believe that. They don't have guys that are trying to finish pretty at the rim and all that bullshit. Sorry, DA, I love you. They have guys that are going to try to put an elbow in your face if you get too close. And that's what you need. You need those kind of guys, especially when you get into the playoffs. Listen, the Denver Nuggets, from my opinion, were not really challenged physically a lot. And I think if you're going to try to wear down somebody like Jokic, that's one way you're going to have to try and do it. That's why I thought Jock was way more effective than DA was, because he was giving them the business, even though he was completely outmanned. Yeah. We know that. I'm not saying he stopped him by any stretch of the imagination. But even Denver Nuggets fans were like, Jock played the best out of anybody against Jokic because he was so physical. And that's what I hope that this entire collective team brings to the table this year. And I feel like that's what we're about to see.
And to your point, first minute into Frank Vogel's introductory press conference, what did he say? He said, we're going to play scrappy as hell. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They got the collection of guys that are going to do that.
That is a great fucking point, Gerald.
It's time.
It's going to be fun,
now
guys.
Let's see what happens.
I think you should.
Scrappy like me and Chelsea.
We need to start moving. Listen, I get that trades are hard one way or the other. No matter how you feel about a situation, there's always a lot of emotions that go into it. But I think we need to, since the season is quite literally just around the corner, media day is on Monday, we need to start leaning a little bit more into that this is what our team is. Try and find the positives and get on board with the growth and the development and just the story that will be whatever this season is for the Phoenix Suns. But we'll continue to have this conversation tomorrow. We'll be back at 3 p.m. If you are here on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button on your way out. If you are listening on audio.
We talked about all the new guys. We're not going to talk about Grayson Allen for real?
No, we're going to do that tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll
continue this. Episode on Grayson Allen?
We are not having a whole episode on Grayson Allen.
Y'all going to fight by the end of it.
Also, real quick, Sean Hyken, who did join us to talk about the Portland guys, we do have an entire interview on our YouTube page if you want to watch that full thing. That content is there as well for you. But I believe I was saying if you're listening on audio, rate, review, subscribe. You can also follow the show on Twitter to stay up to date with everything at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And you can follow Flex at Flex from Jersey. I'm going to take us home today because thank you to everyone who voted in the secret poll for me. Ahoy, hoy!
Style is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though. Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saul pass the ball. We here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me. I'll always wreck the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G. No plan B.